Hey guys, what's up? It's me once again. Here is my analysis, a layman's analysis of Mshololo's cross-examinations of the constables or the surgeons that were the first respondents or responders to the scene of Senzo Meyiwa's murder. Right? Let us get to it. Let's tune in.
Yes, Mrs. Mshololo. Thank you, my lord. Mr. Mteto, I'm going to ask you a question, not because you are an expert, but because you are a South African, you are a member of the South African Police Service.
Ngizokubuza ke imibuzo hayi ngoba ngithi ungoti kodwa ke ngoba uyilunga la amaphoyisa ese South Africa.
Do you understand?
Kezwakala? Yes.
Okay. Let's start here. At the time when you attended the crime scene, what was your rank?
Ngalesikhathi owawuya khona lapha yana kule ndawo isigameko esenzeka khona ke irank yakho yayithi. I was a constable.
Okay. And what was the year? What were your years of experience?
Oneminyaka emingaka uyiphoyisa. 5 if I'm not mistaken.
5 years. Okay.
I'm glad she asked it that way because the first advocate to cross-examine asked that question wrongly. She said, in your 15 years of experience. No, he didn't have the 15 years of experience at the time of the incidents. Remember, this case is taking place 9 years later from the incident. So I'm glad she asked it that way. Good question, Mshololo.
At that time, when you attended the crime scene, had you received any training within the SAPS of any kind? Any training in the SAPS? We understand now you were junior constable of 5 years experience. Any training that you had at that time?
Ngaleso sikhathi leso ingabe khona yini training noma eyaluphi uhlobo owayeso uyitholile emaphoyisa. Siyazi ukuthi wawuyi-constable uyi-junior eno 5 years kodwa ingabe ikhona yini training owawuse uyitholile noma eyaluphi uhlobo emaphoyiseni? Yes, they were.
Yes, tell us please, tell us. Tell the court must also hear you, Mr. Mteto. Or maybe should we take a break? A bit?
What type of training is counsel referring to?
You've also been drilling, police drilling.
That's why I'm open, my lord, to say, have you received any sort of or any kind of a training? Maybe, my lord, I think can I ask that we take a short adjournment?
But before that, how is any training going to help the court? Why don't you narrow your question to what you want to ask the witness? That will assist the court in determining whatever you want to determine here. Because the person is the first respondent of the scene, is not going to change it. He doesn't become an expert witness, but he was the first one to respond to the scene. He did his job to the best of his abilities, under obviously supervision. And even if he made some errors, those will be corrected through corrective discipline or whatever the case may be. So why don't you just tailor-make the question to the specificity of what you want to know? Because I suspect I know what you want to know. You want to know his ability to assimilate knowledge. That's basically what you want to know. So why don't you get to be specific?
Just to give witness a break.
Come on, the witness did not
Just
ask
a
for a
comfort
break.
And then we'll resume, my lord.
Sir, are you asking for a comfort break?
Ucela ikhefu. Ucela isikhashana ukuthi ke siphumule nje. No, I'm fine.
Okay, then speak to me now. You must speak aloud and you don't look down. What was your experience? Is there any training that you have received at the time when you attended the crime scene? If yes, tell us, please.
noma ngingasawakhumbuli ngiwabhala kusasa wonke ngiwa-check bese ngibuya nawo.
Although I can't remember them all, I would write them down and come back with all of them tomorrow morning.
But we had received something.
Kodwa kukhona okwakutholile.
Hayi khona khona.
Yes, there is.
Okay. In doing what?
Okwenzani noma ukuthi wenzeni lokho ukuthola ukuthi wenzeni
In
ngakho.
what kind of duties?
Imisebenzi
That you were
noma
trained
emiphi imisebenzi noma
Or
lokho kwakuthi wenze
responsibilities.
eyiphi imisebenzi.
Sorry, madam.
Ngoba bengisho ngicela ukuthi onke amakhozi engiwenzile ngifike nje ngiwabhale kahle ngiwa-check bese ngibuya nawo kusasa.
I'm making this request, my lord, to check all the courses that I did, write them down and come back with them tomorrow.
At the time when you attended the crime scene, did you know what to do when you attend crime scene? Had you received any training, in-service training, whatsoever, in-house training as to what to look for, what to do when you attend the crime scene?
Ngalesa sikhathi lesiyana ke 26 October 2014 uya lapha yana ke wawazi yini ukuthi uma ufika kisini yini ekufanele uyenze yini ekufanele ubheke noma khona owakuthola ekwakuyinko okwakutshela ukuthi uma ufika crime scene kufanele wenze lokho ubheke lokho?
Hayi lokho engangifundiswe khona e-college.
Yes, that's what I was taught in the college.
Yeah. What is it that you were taught?
Wafundiswana.
What is it that you were taught to do when you attend the crime scene?
Wafundiswa ukuthi wenzeni uma uya kwi-crime scene.
Ngifike esini ngiqale ngithole i-complainant iqala.
When I go to the scene, or that when I get to a scene, I first get a complainant.
I can't hear you, Mr. Mthetho.
Takakuzwa.
Ngithole i-complainant iqala.
To first get the complainant,
Yes.
And then izongichazela ukuthi kwenzakalani.
then the complainant will convey to me what happened.
Yes.
From lapho ke ngoba sengine-information ukuthi kwenzakalani senga-safeguard ayisini.
From there, now that I will then be having information as to what is happening, I can then now safeguard the scene.
Okay. That's all.
Iloko kuphela.
Konke engikutholayo kumele ngikuphathe kahle ngize ngithole ama-photographer ngifonele wonke umuntu okumele afike ezini.
That everything that I would have gathered, that I would have to look after that until I then get to the relevant people, the photographers.
Okay. Is there anything else, or that's all?
Khona okunye? No, nothing.
Okay. Let's start from the last. You were told that from every information that you find at the crime scene, you must gather it until it is taken by the relevant person. Did I get you correct?
So far, I'm observing, guys, and the reason I'm observing, I don't understand the approach that Mshololo is using of trying to get under the skin of the witness, rather than focusing on unearthing the information through factual questions. Because right now, for example, to me, she's yelling at the witness. I don't understand why, and she keeps on saying that she can't hear the witness. The matter of fact is she's speaking to the witness through an interpreter. So the interpreter is making a lot of noise. Therefore, it's invalid that she could now make a statement that I can't hear you, because the court is the one that's supposed to say to the witness they should speak up. And it's a similar issue that I had raised when she was examining Tumelo Matlala, that she seems to want to have, in fact, the judge pointed that out in the case of Tumelo, to say, why do you want to argue with the witness? Because the advocate's job is not to argue with the witness, is not to antagonize the witness. As a matter of fact, Mshololo loves doing that. And that is a violation of the Constitution, because you must respect. Paragraph 10 of the Constitution says we have an inherent right to dignity as South Africans, and such a right must be respected and protected. This obviously includes in the court of law. Why? Because in a court of law, according to Section 35 of the Constitution, subparagraph 3J of that Constitution, it states clearly you have a right to be presumed innocent, right? And in this case, this is a witness that aspect that I'm quoting is written to the accused, to people that have been arrested. So how much more rights do you need to give to witnesses? I just feel that she's literally trying to disrespect the witness so that she can, wrong foot them, and then that way she can get them to make errors. Now I know many lawyers have been able to win cases like this, but for me, this is nothing short of unethical conduct. I'm not accusing Mshololo of being unethical, but it's the same as they would argue and say, when you, the police that is, go to the scene and they didn't have a search warrant, right? There's a reason why police should get a search warrant after they've been tipped, right? Because police are not supposed to violate your right to privacy. We are not supposed to, every time we go out on the street, we are suddenly searched at all times, unless there is a roadblock or whatever the case may be, right? But I'm talking about specifically coming to you and your house and searching you. They need a search warrant, right? Now, what's the point to that? Because you've got rights, that's why they need to bring the warrant. Does this make sense? Okay, now when it comes to you as a person, you have rights and that are enshrined in the Constitution, like your inherent right to dignity, and therefore your dignity should not be dragged in a mud. You shouldn't be spoken to publicly anyhow by a person who knows that they are protected by a court. You can't do the same back to them. Does it make sense? That is why there is a professional etiquette for professionals. As a matter of fact, the first advocate to cross-examine here said it to Tumelo, that I am not here to undermine you. I am not here basically to undress you and make you feel inferior. That's not my attempt. And it seems to me that Mshololo is missing that. You understand? It's very, very important you can respect a witness and still break the witness if they are lying under oath. There's a way to do that, but this is unnecessary aggression, and she's making noise right now. But nevertheless, let me allow them to continue. Then I will interject where I feel necessary. I was just voicing my opinion because from beginning to up until at this time I started talking, I had not said anything because I'm perplexed by the attitude that I'm seeing. And I'm asking myself, what does she think she's going to achieve by this?
Kuzwa kahle ukuthi konke lokho okutholayo kufanele ukuthi ubheke kahle ukuze kufike labo abafanele ekufanele basebenze ngabo. Yes.
You testified that you entered inside the house and you found a hat and the exhibits that were referred to you in terms of the photo album. You remember that evidence?
Uyakhumbula ke kunalesi sithombe besitshengiswa lana, isithombe besitshengiswa lana ke la ushilo khona ukuthi kwakunesigqoko kunecrush nobunye ubufakazi lobo batholakala khona lapha phakathi. Yes.
Did you do your duty as a police officer to guard those items, to make sure that there is no interference to those items that you had observed inside the house?
Ingabe wawenza yini umsebenzi wakhe manje ngephoyisa ke ukwenza isiqiniseko ke ukuthi lokhu okwatholakala ke phakathi?
Once again, I must note that that's a wrong question. It's a wrong question in the sense that it assumes that when you see a head and a crash, you have seen identifiers of a crime scene without any knowledge that this was a crime scene. Remember how these guys were dispatched. Remember his evidence in chief. Mshololo's cross-examination is supposed to be based on the evidence in chief. The guy made it very clear. There is a system description here of how the events have unfolded. The identification of the crime scene only happened after they were coming from the hospital when Makumalo unveiled the truth or removed the veil from their eyes, and they began to say, oh, so this incident took place inside the house. Hence they were even able now to go back there and cordon the place. But they had no reason to cordon the place prior to that because there was no glaring apparent evidence that this was a crime scene. So the way she's asking the question is, here in court we have showed you exhibits of what was found in the crime scene. But wait a minute, there is a process to identifying that place as a crime scene. They didn't go there knowing that that was a crime scene. And the question is being asked, this is the disingenuity that I see in this question. The question is being asked with a presumption in it that supposes that they knew that that was a crime scene. Did you do your duty to safeguard? What was he supposed to safeguard? You see that? I hope you guys can see that. Remember, as I said, this is a layman's analysis, but I'm still going to analyze further. Let's continue.
Ukuthi-ke akukho ukuphazanyiswa noma ukuphazamiseka kukona lokho kwatholakala phakathi. Ngabe wawenza yini umsebenzi wakho njengephoyisa? Yes, I did.
Yeah, did you safeguard those items?
Safeguard lokho? Yes.
You testified that you left to the hospital and you
Ushilo-
left the crime scene with Mr. Khumalo. Do you remember that?
Ushilo ukuthi nahamba na esibhedlela futhi umuntu enamshiya lapha yana uMr. Khumalo.
That was
Do you hear how she's asking a question? That is dishonesty. If I was that witness, I would point that out to say, but my lord, she's misrepresenting my evidence in chief. I never said I left the crime scene with Mr. Kumar because the crime scene had not yet been identified at that time. So observe, she is twisting the truth. And for me, that's not law. That's an unethical conduct because law is asking a set of logical questions to get to the truth, right? But it is not, well, I guess they're allowed to twist the truth, but this is not being truthful. At no point in time did the witness said, we identified the place as a crime scene, then we asked Kelly's uncle to lock the crime scene. At no point in time did that take place. That did not happen. That is her own version. If anything, I would point out that she's now testifying, and this is her own version. This is not the version of the truth as the witness had testified.
safeguarding. It means you left the evidence with someone else who was not a member of the police officer. Am I correct?
Kusho ukuthi nashiya umuntu lapha yana ongasiyena ongasilona iphoyisa.
Am I correct?
Iqiniso lakho?
If you have no answer, just say so. We have no answer.
Uma kuwukuthi impendulo. I don't have an answer.
I'm telling you that you left the crime scene when you knew exactly that you were supposed to guard the crime scene. You left it with Mr. Khumalo.
No,
Ngithi-ke kwena-ke mina-ke endaweni.
But that's a blatant lie. Why is this young man saying that he doesn't know? You see, he is being intimidated by her approach. The truth of the matter is, anybody who has a brain cell that is working here, can decipher what I'm showing you, that the identification of the crime scene only happened much, much later. When they were there, they didn't know what the crime scene was. They were dispatched, they were not given any information that would assist them to identify the crime scene in the first place. So when they arrived there, they found Kelly's uncle, who then said he knows nothing about what has happened. He's just carrying the key to the house because his sister had asked him to, but they've taken someone to the hospital, the injured person to the hospital. So he didn't say a person was shot inside the house, meaning even at this particular moment, they still don't know where the crime scene is. By them asking, they were being proactive for the house to be open. They were being proactive, trying to identify where the crime scene was. And there's nothing in the house that they saw at that moment that pointed to a crime scene. The crash and the hurt does not point to a crime scene unless you were told that there was this squabble that happened in the house where the occupants of the house were being attacked by two assailants. One of them was wearing a hat and they hit one of the assailants using a crash of one of the occupants. Then suddenly your understanding changes completely. It is patently false that they left the crime scene to a Khumalo, that is the uncle who was not a member of SAPS. They had not identified that as a crime scene at that particular juncture. This is a misrepresentation of facts. This is not good advocacy, not at all. It's a misrepresentation of facts. I think the court is alive to that in any case. Let's proceed.
Ke niyigadeke noma nibheke i-crime scene nayishiya-ke nishiya nayo Mr. Khumalo. Okay.
You also failed to prevent the tampering with the crime scene and left the crime scene with Mr. Khumalo.
nokuthi ke anizange nikwenzeke ukuthi ke
Now, guys, I'm going to be hands off here, right? I'm gonna take the gloves off. I was a boxer when I was growing up. That's what I mean when I'm saying I'm gonna take the gloves off. So I'm not gonna treat Mshololo as a baby. I think already by now you know my opinion concerning Mshololo. I think she's one of the brightest rising stars within our judiciary, right? Particularly in this case, she's a brightest spark on the block. Okay, she has a bright prospects of the future, but she also obviously has a lot of development to do. That's my view. But the point is this: I'm going to critique this video as honestly as possible. Right? She says they left the crime scene and did not say Joy. They hadn't identified it. And she is going to read something that disproves her own theory here in court. She's going to read a statement that has been given. And remember now, I want you to know that the police were dispatched at 7 minutes before 9. It took them 10 to 12 minutes to arrive on the scene. That is, this constable arrived at the scene at 7 minutes past 9, right? That's when they would have met Kelly's uncle roundabout. Bear that in mind. It's going to come in very handy in what Mshololo is going to read, which disproves her thesis completely. Let us continue.
Yeke ukuthi nivike noma nivimbeke ukuthi kungabikho ukuphazanyiswa noma ukuthempara ngokuthi nishiye ukhumalo laphayana. Isn't it that you are still putting it to me?
Yes, do we have any comment?
Do you hear how the witness is responding? The witness is fed up. It's like the witness has reached the point that Tumelo had reached to say, I was the one that was on the scene, you were not there. So there's no, if you want to now tell me instead of asking me questions, then I'm going to keep quiet. That's basically what the witness is saying. Angithi you are still putting it to me. Do you see that? He has reached that point. For me, I expected better, but nevertheless, let's proceed.
That you left the crime scene?
Because you are putting it to me, it's fine.
Yeah. Do you agree with me that you left the crime scene with Mr. Khumalo?
We have whom? No.
With whom did you leave the crime scene with?
I didn't leave anyone.
Oh, okay. So the crime scene was left unattended?
Kusho ukuthi nashiya nje inganakiwe
This young man is naughty. You know what he's doing. He's basically allowed her to go on this rant, and he sees right through her. For some strange reason, I thought he missed that. But here he is saying, no, I didn't leave anyone in the crime scene. Why? Because he hadn't identified it. And that's right there in the chief evidence that he led. Hence, I'm saying Mshololo is being disingenuous. I don't know why the judge, I guess the judge, for some strange reason, is walking on eggshells here, because it was Mshololo that accused the judge of testifying for Tumelo Madlala at some point in time. So perhaps he doesn't want a mistrial. That's why he's walking on eggshells.
I want to get the clarity now. Was there a police officer who was left at the crime scene when you left, or it was Mr. Khumalo only, or you left with no one?
Guys, this question is no different from what the KGB of Russia in their propagandist machinery would do. They would ask you questions like this. Have you stopped beating your wife? How do you answer that? You get the point? How do you answer that? Because first and foremost, that question has a presumption that you've been beating your wife, yet you've never raised a pinky against your wife. Did you leave the crime scene with no one? Do you see that? I don't think lawyers should be allowed to be propagandists, because she's not telling the truth and she knows it. The evidence in chief does not speak to what she's doing over here at all. The evidence in chief is clear, unless I guess they're allowed to test the version of the of the witness as much as it is legally possible. But for me, this is bordering on unethical, to be honest with you, because you've heard the version, you've read it, you understood it, you are not a moron, you wouldn't be an advocate if you were. Therefore, why are you asking questions that are this irrelevant that this witness has to start now being sarcastic? Can you see that? Let's proceed.
Personal share noma kwasala Mr. Khumalo kuphela. No, there's no police officer.
Okay. It was only Mr. Khumalo.
Khumalo kuphela.
Okay. You know the reason why I'm asking you these questions, Mr. Mteto, it's because as a police officer, you had a legal duty to guard the crime scene to avoid the tampering of the crime scene.
Imbangela ke ukuthi
Okay, but Mshololo is wasting time here. He's wasting the time of the court. This gentleman told her what he was trained at college, meaning as a constable 9 years ago. In fact, before that 5 years, 15 years ago when he was at college, he was trained on this. He doesn't need an advocate to remind him, right? So technically, he knows to protect a crime scene. But firstly, when he's dispatched on the crime scene, he needs to get to somebody who's in the know to tell him what has happened. This assists him in identifying the crime scene, then he cordons it off to protect it, right? This process has not been followed here. Mshololo chose to start with the last one, as he said, thereby reversing the whole thing. It's not the same thing, it's perversion when you reverse it the way she has.
Imibuzo engikubuza ngoba nanjengephoyisa ke kwakumele ngokomthetho ke noma proper ke umthetho ke ukuthi ukwenzeke isiqiniseko sokuthi i-crime scene leyana ke i-secure noma ke igadiwe. Okay?
Okay. And I'm going to show you through the statements of the people who made statements how the crime scene was tampered with after you had left the crime scene.
Once again, that's a misrepresentation of facts. And I'm saying it in advance because you are going to see she would not be able to prove that aspect, that the crime scene was tampered with after the police officers left the scene. You are going to see this, bear with me, right? You are going to see this, that the police had not yet arrived yet at the time the crime scene was tampered with, according to the very testimony that she's going to read to prove the claim that she's making. Okay? Let us proceed.
Sake lokho ngezitatimende zabantu abazenza ke abashoyo ukuthi ukuphazamiseka ke okwabakhona ke kuyona ke i-crime scene emuva kokuthi nayishiya. Okay.
After inspecting inside the house and discovered what you had just testified about, did you inspect the premises outside the house of the crime scene?
Emuva kokuthi senibhekile ke ngaphakathi endlini ingabe nabheka yini egcekeni? Yes, we did.
Did you see any car within the premises?
Ikhona imoto enayibona ngaphakathi egcekeni? No.
On the street next to the Khumalo homestead and the neighboring houses, did you see any Honda?
Eduze kwaba Khumalo na komakhelwane
Is a Honda not a car?
Honda owayibona?
You see what I mean? Did you see any cars? No. Okay, did you see any Honda? Is a Honda not a car? These guys can waste time. Excuse me. They really can waste time. If this is part of their education, then they need to go and get their change. I'm sorry. This is a waste of time.
No, nothing.
You testified that when you came back from the hospital, you entered inside the house. Am I correct?
Ushilo ke ukuthi inkathi nibuye esibhedlela nangena ngaphakathi endlini. Yes.
Okay, let me just go back a little bit first. I'm sorry, my lord. When you said you entered the house and inspected and noticed the head and the crash on the floor, did you also look around the kitchen now, on top of the cupboards?
Uma seningena ke endlini ile hlandla loqala ke wabona isigqoko ke wabona futhi naleya crash ingaba wabheka yini ke khabetheni ubheke la kitchen ke noma sekhabetheni estofini ubheke nje la kitchen the first time.
Now, I wanted to answer, but I thought let me allow him to answer first. Why were they supposed to do that? Why were they supposed to check on top of cupboards? This is not a crime scene as identified. If Kelly's uncle had said, this is a key to the house that my sister gave, because there was an incident that took place inside the house. The person whom they are rushing to the hospital was actually shot inside the house, then Mshololo's questions will be valid. But none of that happened. If when they were being dispatched, I'm just trying to show you my logic here, or rather logic, just simple. If when these people were being dispatched to the scene of the incident, they were given the details of what was happening there. Maybe Ngashe spent time with the police on the phone as he was calling them, telling them that there's someone that has been shot inside the house. There were 5 people who claimed that there was an intruder, and this is what all of the information which we already know as the public. If that information was made available to the dispatching team, then the dispatching team has reasons to answer Mshololo's questions, because you came here knowing that the crime scene was inside the house. Why didn't you secure it? You get the point? Otherwise, her questions becomes completely invalid under the given circumstances. What are the circumstances? You have to listen to the witness being led by Advocate Baloyi in his chief evidence. At no point in time did they identify the house, whether inside or outside, as the crime scene until they went to the hospital and Makumalo lifted up the veil by telling them what has happened. Now suddenly they were keen to get into the house and investigating, because now they do have a reason to investigate. It's a crime scene as identified. But I mean, why were they supposed to investigate it? Why didn't they go to Ngashe's place and investigate and cordon Ngashe's house? Because it was not a crime scene. You need to first identify the scene, otherwise you'll go berserk. You'll go crazy doing something that you're not supposed to do. That's basically an oversimplified view. A simplified view, not oversimplified, a simplified view.
Oh.
Okay. And then when did you eventually check?
Oh, makukuthi wabheka ke na wabheka nini? When we came back for the second time.
Okay. You check around.
Nabheka bheka. Yes.
And you did not see anything
Anzange ngibone lutho.
other than the items that were on the floor.
Ngaphandle kwalezi enazibona ziphansi. No, nothing.
Okay. Did you also notice the door that was damaged?
Isicabha lesi ke esasalimeleke.
I mean the kitchen door, my lord.
Isicabha lesi sase kitchen esasilimeleke naso nasibona.
Did you see? Or did you notice?
Yes, we did.
Okay, you did. Okay. And then when you looked around, you did not find anything. Is that your evidence?
Kubufakazi bakho ukuthi uma senibheka ke anizange nithole lutho. No, nothing.
And it is your evidence that you entered the kitchen together with
Matebula.
sorry, my lord.
Matebula.
Yes, Matebula, my lord, and Captain Zwane, who was interviewing Makumalo when you came back from the hospital. Thank you, my lord.
Uma seningena ke angena nayo Mathebula kanye naye ke uCaptain Zwane oshilo ukuthi uyena ke owaye interviewer uMakhumalo. Yes.
So it means you were now 4. Was it the only 4 people who were inside the kitchen, or there were many other people?
Kwakuyinina no4 kuphela noma babe khona ke nabanye abantu ababe khona phakathi. It was only us.
Oh, okay. Up to the stage when you left the crime scene to Mr. Mosia.
Kwaze kwaye la khona ke usushiya khona ke isini noma senishiya khona ke isini nishiya kumsiya. Yes.
There's no person who entered the kitchen.
Akekho umuntu owangena ekitchen. No. Someone else?
There is a witness, Ms. Ntabisenge, who testified, and he said she went to the kitchen to get some water when the police were still conducting their investigations there at the kitchen.
Kunofakazi ke la ogama lakhe ke liuNthabiseng othe ke yena ke ufakazi bakhe wangena ke ekitchen eyothola amanzi kathi amaphoyisa ayesenza uphenyo lawo.
You didn't see that?
Awuzange ubone lokho. No, nothing.
And if it happened, you could have seen it. You
Uma
could have
kuwukuthi-
seen Ms. Ntabisenge entering the kitchen.
Uma kuwukuthi kwakwenzekile wawuzombona uNthabiseng engena ekitchen.
That's patronizing. Nevertheless, the gentleman had already said no, she didn't enter the kitchen. And then she asked if she entered, you would have seen her. I'm not quite sure why she's asking that question. The gentleman was able to identify a head on the floor, was able to identify a few things, including the bullet when they came back. When they began to look around, meaning his eyesight is not in question here. But I think it's her version that she's doubting, but I do not know what are the grounds of her doubting that version. But nevertheless, let's hear, because I think the judge is interfering.
I would put it like that. Because his evidence is clear. It's just at a stage when he, Matebula, Zwane, and Musia were in the kitchen, nobody else entered. Now you're putting it to him that if Ntabiseng had entered, he says there were only 4. That's his evidence. So logic tells you Ntabiseng could have come subsequent to
Exactly.
them being 4 with Zwane.
Exactly, because they are not the only
If
police
he
that are on
says
the
they
scene.
were the only 4, I'm not saying that. He is saying it.
Yeah.
He doesn't
Yeah.
say, I don't know. I don't remember any other person who entered. Sir, are you certain that you were left with Zwane, Matebula, Musia in the kitchen?
Unesiqiniseko sokuthi kwakuwena uMathebula uZwane noMsiya ekitchen? Yes.
Only.
Phela. Only.
So I understand the witness.
Thank you. There is a police officer, warrant officer Mshololo, who attended the crime scene on the following day, and he made a statement wherein he says he found a projectile in the kitchen. Sorry, can I just read it as it, my lord? He found the projectile from the kitchen cabinet top.
Kunephoyisa ke uwarrant officer Mshololo othi yena ke waya ke nelanga elilandelayo ke wathola iprojectile kwikhabethe ke noma ngaphezulu ke kwikhabethe lase kitchen.
He attended the crime scene after you.
Yena ke waya ke emuva kokuthi nina nanisenilapha yana. Oh, okay.
But you didn't see this projectile that he says he found at the bottom of the cupboard.
No, on top
Le
of the
projectile athi yena ke wayithola enzansi ekhabetheni anizange niyibone mawuzange uyibone wena.
No, sorry, my lord, not at the bottom. He found from kitchen cabinet top.
Uthe wayithola ke phezulu ke kwikhabethe lase kitchen. No, I didn't see it.
You didn't see it. Thank you. And then before, when you said you received a complaint about the shooting incident, do you still remember who reported that shooting incident?
Ingabe usakhumbula yini nkathi nithola lo mbiko ke ukuthi ubani lowo owayendlulisa umbiko lowo ukuthi kwakune shooting in progress? It was radio control.
Oh, okay. You did not hear. He did not give the number, the name.
Akanikezanga ngegama.
Abasinika ngegama bathi shooting in progress emzamo basinike house number.
They didn't give us the name, they just said shooting in progress in Mzamo, and they gave us the house number.
Oh, okay. And at the time when you left the crime scene to the hospital, why didn't you leave? You said you were 4. Am I correct?
Kushilo ukuthi nkathi niya lapha yana nani u4 angithi. Yes.
Why didn't you leave the other 2 members behind to look after the crime scene to ensure that there's no tampering? with the crime scene.
Uma senihamba ke manje niye esibhedlele kwakungani laba abawu2 ke
Okay, as I said, guys, my gloves are off. It's a silly question. You know, in logic we have something that is called straw man. A straw man, you build your own argument, you start disputing your own argument, and then you think that you have won an argument. Yet you have not bothered to argue the facts as they were presented. That's what Mshololo is doing here. She's building up a straw man that there was a scene, a crime scene, right? That was identified and known to the police officers. They failed to secure it. No, but that's not true. The scene must first be identified. And at this particular moment, it had not yet been identified. You understand? I hope you do. Let's proceed. So this is a straw man argument.
bashiyike ukuthi nje babheke ukuthi akukho kwenzekayo noma okwenziwayo la kwi-crime scene bese niyahamba nina nesibhedlela.
Ngoba emqondweni yethu yayingakabikho into ethi isini kithi, so sasinike sishiya abantu singakatholi information.
Because in our minds nothing had yet registered.
Do you hear what the witness is saying? Emqondweni wethu kwakungekho something that says it is a sin. You see that? Not what the translator is saying. It had not yet registered. No. If you go with that manner of interpretation, it would mean they were supposed to have known. You get the point? For something not to have yet registered, when I speak to my children, for an example, you would find that one of them will assimilate what I'm telling them quicker than the other one. And the other one will say, oh, I got it. That's what it means to have not yet registered. The question is, if you're going to say it had not yet registered in their mind, why was it supposed to register? Who had told them where the crime scene was? So the correct answer is the one that's given in Zulu. That, listen to the answer again. Let's listen to it together.
Ke manje niyesibhedlele kwakungani laba abawu2 ke ningabashiyike ukuthi nje babheke ukuthi akukho kwenzekayo noma okwenziwayo la kwi-crime scene bese niyahamba nina nesibhedlele.
Ngoba emqondweni yethu yayingakabikho into ethi isini kithi, so sasinike sishiya abantu
There you go.
singakatholi information.
There you go. In our thinking, in our mind, there was nothing that said this is a crime scene to us. You get the point? It doesn't say it had not yet dawned. No. We had not yet registered. No. None of the above. There was nothing that gave signals. A head, a crash, and 2 beer cans that are lying there are not evidence of any crime scene. Let's proceed.
Because in our minds, nothing had yet registered or told us that it was a sin. There's no way that we would have left people not knowing as to what was happening.
Yeah, but the complaint was straightforward to say there has been a shooting incident.
Okay, I must correct myself. I think I was unduly critical to the interpreter in this regard, because the way he interpreted to accommodate the word registered is actually correct. Okay, so excuse me, I'm not beyond reproach, but I was unduly critical. I didn't hear him out, but now that I've heard him out, he's correct as well in his assessment of that. Let's proceed then, get back to what Mshololo is saying.
Yet registered or told us that it was a sin. There's no way that we would have left people not knowing as to what was happening.
Yeah, but the complaint was straightforward to say there has been a shooting incident. Am I correct?
Kodwa ke uma nithola ke umbiko ke wawuqondile nje ukuthi
There was a shooting incident. Where? At house number Mang. Where? Inside, outside, on top? Where? Where was the shooting incident? Because, but nevertheless, let's proceed. Because I don't want to belabor this point. Because I think it's much more clearer than what she claims to be clear. It's clear as daylight.
kwakune shooting in progress.
Sihlale siwathola ama-complaint aqondile kanti awaqondile.
We normally get complaints that are straightforward, yet they are not straightforward.
But I'm being specific in this one. I'm talking about this case. For this case, the complaint was specific to say there had been a shooting incident It means if there had been a shooting incident, there had been a firing of shots.
Kodwa ke ngikhuluma ngalena ke manje ukuthi yayi specific ke ukuthi kwakukhulunywe ngokuthi kwakune shooting.
Kumele ukuthi nawe uma ufika lena phela kube nomuntu okufakazela lokho ukuthi lento oyithole ku radio control vele izokhona ukuqhubekela phambili.
Isn't it that when you get to the scene then you need to get someone there who is going to confirm that which was reported to you by or via radio control, that indeed that the report you received is indeed so.
That makes perfect sense. Otherwise, you'll be wasting state resources.
Okay.
So as for you to be able to proceed further.
Okay, but the nature of the report, what did you understand by the nature of the report that you received?
Kodwa ke umbiko loyo onawuthola yini owayizwa noma owayithola kuleyo mbiko loyo?
Umbiko from radio control.
Usho wona yebo.
Shooting in progress.
A shooting in progress.
What does that mean?
Kusho ukuthini?
It means
What
shooting
is
in
a
progress.
Shooting.
Yeah, then it means a shot has been fired. Am I correct?
Kusho ukuthi kuqume isibhamu lapho.
Okay, now, this is very important to all those of us who love Mshololo. She's out of order here. It doesn't matter how many times she repeats herself. She's completely out of order because the constable has already explained that what the process is. The process is we hear something from radio control. We are dispatched, right? And then she says, but I'm talking about this one, this specific incident. The gentleman is talking about the specific incident as well. But the process is not just going to change because of this specific incident. The process is we are dispatched, we get to the scene, we've ascertained from somebody who's in the know if these claims which we heard from radio control are actually true. Once we establish that, we then identify the scene and we coordinate off. However, when they got here to the so-called scene, they were referred to the hospital where the people who would know what has happened and where it happened were at, that is at the hospital. Therefore, there was no identification of sin prior to going to the hospital. The sin was only identified through the information given to them by Makumalo, right? So for her to then say when the radio control said shooting incident means a shot was fired, the gentleman has already explained. We have received many of such. When we got to the scene, nobody remembers hearing a shot or anything like that, meaning it was a false report. Now, how were they supposed to know that this was not one of such false reports? You get the point? Because they get to the gate, the guy that is at the gate who has the key to the house doesn't know anything that has happened. He doesn't even know that Senzo was shot. He just knows that someone has been taken to the hospital, but he doesn't know what happened to them. At least he doesn't divulge that information to them. So, bearing all of that in mind, which is all of it encapsulated in his evidence in chief, this manner of questioning, for me, leaves a lot to be desired. It's just a waste of time. This case should actually be finalized and the judge delivers his judgment on the issues of these witnesses. These lawyers are asking irrelevant questions, and these are such questions where they now try to twist because they have an end in mind, meaning they are not objective in asking these questions because they already have an end in mind in terms of their questioning, line of questioning. Let us proceed.
Yithi sisebenza lapha phandle. Yazi ukuthole i-complaint bethi robbery lapha. Uma ufika akho lutho.
We are the ones that are
There
working
you go.
outside. We do get complaints that there was a robbery over there. You get there and you find that there was absolutely nothing.
So
No.
ama-false complaints siwajwayele siyawazi. Ukuze-ke sikuphruvele ukuthi mhlawumbe akusiyo i-false complaint, kumele uthole umuntu onolwazi lapha ozokutshena into eyiyona-yona eyenzakele la. Kodwa uma ungamtholi lowo muntu uyithola lapha information uhamba usafeguarda yonke isini nengesini.
We are used to
There
false
you go.
complaints. We get them. So as for you to be able to confirm that what was reported to you is indeed so, you need to get someone that was there to confirm that for you. So does that not mean now we are going to safeguard every sin that is not even a sin?
Okay, but you understood the nature of the complaint that a shot has been fired. Do you agree with me?
Kodwa ke wawuthola umbiko ukuthi kwaqhuma isibhamu.
Yeah.
Yes.
The nature of the complaint does not establish the validity of the complaint. So her question is a non sequitur. It doesn't follow. The nature of the complaint does not establish the veracity, the validity of the complaint. Hence, that still needs to be established by the cops going out to the scene. As he rightfully points out, we've had so many of these instances where when we get to the scene, no one was robbed. It was a false call. How were they supposed to know that this was not the case? They went to the scene and they asked and they were referred to the hospital. Only in hospital did they establish that, okay, there is a veracity to this claim. There is a Senzo who is dead there, and Makumalo is telling us where he was shot. Then now we have a scene of the incident that we've identified. You see what information does? And she's ignoring all of that because she must ask these questions in a certain manner. For me, it's just a waste of time. That doesn't assist the court into getting to the truth. Okay, guys, we have gone this far. That's a lot to take in. 50 minutes is quite a long time. So I think I'll make part 2 for the rest of the video. And I'm looking forward to it because I think it's going to be a doozy. The reason for that is because the entire case that Mshololo has built here on part 1, which I have been contending with, is completely blown out of the water there by evidence that she herself introduces in the court, where she reads a statement of one of the witnesses, and that statement categorically says that the scene was tampered with prior to the police. As a matter of fact, it gives you a system description, a narrative description of how everything unfolded. I'm looking forward to it. You should. As of now, I would stop the video over here and I would say to you, prior to you clicking away, like the video and subscribe if you haven't yet. Please tell me what your views are based on my layman's analysis. Okay, see you in the next.